I feel really fortunate to be able to do the work that I do. I have an incredible group of individuals. And what's so interesting about the group of individuals that I work with Navy SEALs, Special Forces, professional athletes, executives, CEOs, is that what runs through the vein of all of them is they want to be the best version of themselves. And that is so interesting to see. It's not about being good, because a lot of these guys are good, right? A Navy SEAL is good. Arguably, they would say they're great. But they go from good to exceptional through a plan of longevity. And you and I we were all talking off the air. One of the really special things about Don is that it's not being fit for the moment. It's let me take care of my body for the lifetime, the trajectory of my life. And so that's really my focus.
But how did you get into this? I mean, that was something, I don't know if I've ever asked you this, because it's to be great at what you do, you have to have this love, you have to have this passion for it. And you love it. I mean, you live it. I mean, I've never, 5 years until, she's expecting in 10 weeks?
Yeah, soon.
We're very excited for you, but I've never seen you eat a piece of bread or do anything until you were pregnant. And she's sending me pictures of her having a pretzel on the street with her fiance, and I'm like, yes. Yeah. I'm like, it's about time we finally got you to eat a pretzel. It was great.
Yeah, that's so funny. Don is really a really great friend and someone who I definitely bring into my life, and I want him to be involved and to know what's happening. So the question was, how did I get into this, or where did it come from? Mm-hmm. And I'm actually second generation into functional medicine, which is the concept of functional medicine is getting to the root cause. It's not you have high blood pressure, let me give you a pill. It's why do you have high blood pressure? Why is your testosterone low? Why do you have eczema? What are the underlying factors really at that root cause? And my godmother, her name, she's an OG. She's going to kill me if I tell you how old she is. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Lipsky. And she was one of the first people in functional medicine. She wrote, the term leaky gut?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She wrote Digestive Wellness probably over a decade ago now. And that was one of the first books that came out and talked about leaky gut and these kinds of things. So I moved in with her when I was 17. Moved to Hawaii, graduated high school early, moved to Hawaii. And that began the trajectory of my training, which after seeing her, she's a nutritionist, a PhD. I went to undergrad and studied human nutrition, vitamin, mineral metabolism under Dr. Donald Layman, who happens to be one of the world leading experts in protein metabolism. So when you talk about sustainability and veganism and high protein, this is the guy, right?
This can become a very long podcast. I just want you to know that. I hope we have nothing to do for a while.
Well, actually, did you want to quit medical school?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
God, multiple times.
And what stopped you from doing that?
I wanted to quit medical school, and then I wanted to quit residency. I absolutely hated both of them. No offense to any of the resident directors. I did 2 residencies and a fellowship for someone that hated it, but I really hated it. So I can tell you from medical school, it's a model of learning that is sick-based. So yes, you have to learn the underlying pathology, but what you see is it is a very aggressive schedule, and you're trying to build these individuals that provide care and compassion for other individuals, and they are just wrung out, right? I mean, I was studying 12 hours a day. Mm-hmm. If not more, and training nutrition, none of the concept of lifestyle or wellness didn't exist. I hated it. And then when I went to residency, you're spending time with a bunch of overweight, no offense, of course, people who are eating cafeteria food and looking at you crazy when you're doing sprints. And because I was competing, you mentioned Flex. I did a couple swimsuit issues of theirs. And,
oh, really?
I did. Oh. Robert Reef shot that. He's the best. So, while I was going through residency, it was very rigorous, and they looked at me crazy and chastised me when I was doing sprints on my 24-hour shifts or whatever it was. And you're just like, the concept of teamwork wasn't really there, and it's just not a good environment ever.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been training professionally now for 20 years, and I want to say it was probably 15 years ago I started following a guy by the name of Paul Chek. And he was the first one, I think it really opened my eyes to wellness.
Yeah.
Because everything before that just seemed, maybe it's because I was so young then, but everything just seemed like fitness. It seemed like, the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, and you're like kind of just, you're like thirsting for this knowledge, and you're trying to find good resources. And then out of nowhere, Paul's talking about, biodynamic and organic farming and the soil, and how the tractor over the soil isn't good, but the hoof is, because it's damaging the soil less. And you start hearing this stuff, and you're like, well, that makes sense. Leaky gut, all these terms that, we're bringing up now. So it really, I mean, did it exist before there? Sure. Were magazines talking about it? No, it wasn't, because I was struggling to find these resources. It hasn't been around that long. Yeah. You think 15 years now, I mean, what's that taking us back to right now? 2000, I mean, it was probably longer than that. It was probably 2000 to 2000. Yeah, roughly 2000 when I started developing
around
that.
Y2K?
Yeah, around Y2K.
I was buying batteries and stuff like that.
Everyone's panicking over it. So, I mean, there's so many routes that we can go down here, but I definitely want to jump into one topic, and we could potentially probably cover most of the talk on this, but it's protein. I mean, I'm in my gym yesterday, and protein is probably one of the questions I get asked most on my digital. They're saying, what's the best protein to consume? How do you know a good protein? And you give the basic answers, like you have to find a good source and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, whey or plant? And one of my members came up to me yesterday, and they says, I'm a vegan. So the first thing I always think when I hear this is, in my head, why? Is it religious purposes? Is it you don't want to kill animals? Fine. Like, all right, I'm putting you into one category right now, because if it's one or the other, I'm not changing you. I don't really want to change you. I don't want to get down that route, because it becomes an argument. It's really bad. And I've learned it's like politics. I don't want to have that discussion with people, right? I'll defer to someone like you to have that discussion. But they said, well, no, because I don't want to get cancer.
Right.
And they said that to me. And then I got tight. Then I was immediately like, because I knew I'm still not going to be able to have this conversation with this person, because they read some specific studies.
This is true.
Right? What the China study, what was it called exactly? And
there's even a better study.
Okay, so can we spend some time right now talking about this? All right, and I want you to run,
okay,
if you don't mind.
So there's so much to cover. I mean, maybe if we have a couple hours, but let's talk about the data. Just because you brought up this study, the China study, let's take a closer look at the most recent study. And it came out in 2018, and a guy named Levine wrote the study. It came out in Cell. And in big headlines, it says protein causes cancer, increases IGF-1, causes cancer. And what you don't know about this study is that it got a ton of traction.
Yeah,
right?
Great headline.
Right? And that one of the researchers on that study happens to be one of the editors of Cell, the journal, which is the most prestigious journal, and he's actually largely vegan. Mm-hmm. The data had to be retracted because it was done incorrectly. It talked about how that the lowest protein group did the best, and they didn't get cancer, when actually a whole group of world-leading experts, non-propaganda-driven experts, wrote in and said, "Listen, the data that you're suggesting, I think it was 0.3 grams per kilogram, something really low. It was below the
really
RDA.
Yeah.
It was recommending maybe 30 to 40 grams, maybe 50 grams a day of protein." And these experts, and by the way, the RDA, which is the recommended amount, is 0.8 grams per kilogram. Now, we know there's 30 years of data of good research, and we know that that's too low. That's too low for longevity, for prevention of sarcopenia, for body composition. It's just entirely too low. And this study came out saying you should eat almost 50% less than that, so you should, to protect yourself against cancer. And these world-leading scientists went through the statistics and said, this is not, what you're presenting is not what your data actually says. And they never published the article. It's available online, but they didn't publish the article because one of the researchers was one of the editors.
Right. So, I mean, again, this is a tough topic to discuss with someone who's living a vegan lifestyle. Can we? And my answer is typically, well, I actually gave a really good answer to this guy. First off, I don't want to eat plants, and I eat plants, but I don't want to eat only plants, nuts, and grains for the rest of my life. One, I enjoy animal protein.
Yeah.
I enjoy I'm sorry, it sounds very egotistical, the way I look from it. I enjoy the way I feel from it. And I'm not going to turn around and go my whole life depriving myself of that stuff. I am going to go and find the best source. I'm going to go and spend a lot more money having, like, she sends me she sent me a birthday present. What she sent me, like, every year for my birthday, she sends me literally a 50-pound box of grass-fed beef and yak and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But this is high quality meat that, you know, some people may say that they can't afford. I argue with that. I say, you know what? Why don't you start eliminating spending money on junk food or alcohol, or the same person who's turning around and saying, you know, meat causes cancer.
But there's no evidence. But we should talk about there's absolutely no evidence
but this is the same person who's going out drinking, you know, vodka twice a week or turning around. They're like, it cracks me up with people. It's the individual that calls me about macros. You know, I want to, and I'm like, well, wait a second, you don't have to go to macros yet. Turn around and start, you know, eliminating the 5 cheat meals that you're having a week. You know, you don't have to get there yet. So I would like to get into right now a little bit of, you know, you're discussing the research and get into, let's dive into this a little bit more.
Let's just talk about cancer.
Can I ask one question real quick, just on something you said? So why is it that the recommended daily allowance is so low? Like, why is it such a conservative number?
From nitrogen balance studies back in the day, from like 1940, extrapolated pig data. And it really was based on the model of 18-year-old men, soldiers, to make sure that they didn't totally get sick. And that's where we came up with the number.
But
and
it was more of a minimal. It was more of a minimal dosage. When you are a trained individual, when you are someone who is going through the daily stresses and rigors of working and living in New York City, those levels, they have to be increased. If I want to decrease my amount of protein, I have to get my calories from somewhere else.
Exactly.
Or I'm not even going to say I'm going to lose weight. I know myself, I'm going to potentially get sick. My metabolism's going to slow up. These are things that I know happen to myself if I'm under-fueled. I'm not trying to remove fuel.
Yeah.
I'm trying to add fuel. I want the person to burn more fuel. Yeah. So we got to get it from somewhere.
Well, yeah, and it's the equivalent of saying, why is the RDA 60 milligrams of vitamin C?
Right.
And the answer to that is to prevent scurvy. So they want to give you the minimal amount to prevent disease. So at 0.8 grams per kilogram is the minimal amount to prevent disease.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but who wants to live at the baseline?
That word scurvy just is terrible. I'm just still thinking about it, really.
A little skeevy.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, but no, I get what you're saying, but man, okay. I'm glad I asked, but I'm sorry that word got brought up.
You know, cancer. So everyone says, okay, well, protein causes cancer.
Yeah.
Let's actually take for 1 second one of the biggest risk factors of cancer. So take out lung, which, by the way, lung cancer kills more individuals than all the cancers combined. So in 60 years, we haven't gotten better at treating lung cancer. It's not a metabolic disease. We lose about 160,000 people to lung cancer.
But Sean passed of lung cancer, right?
Yes.
And that is the most.
And he never smoked a day in his life. Okay.
Exactly.
So can you explain that?
Yes. So we don't have a good understanding or knowledge of lung cancer. Smoking is maybe one part, but we don't know the rest. So lung cancer, and it's a tough one because our treatments haven't gotten any better. So in the last 60 years, our survivability, it hasn't gotten any better.
Right.
And so is it okay?
But it's not metabolic.
Yeah, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but is it because of the tobacco industry? Like, we
don't know.
Okay.
But I will tell you, that's not really at this moment in time a risk factor we can abate. But what we do know is that breast, colon, uterine cancer, all of these are related to one big risk factor. Are you ready for what that is?
Yes.
Low protein.
Obesity.
Obesity, yeah.
Insulin.
Right.
Obesity and insulin. What is the biggest driver of obesity and insulin?
Driver meaning consumption?
Excess calories.
Yeah.
Excess calories, and then secondary to that is excess insulin.
Yeah, I wasn't going to answer because I didn't want to get it wrong.
Well, listen.
I'm not good at.
But that's based on carbohydrates. That's based on carbohydrates. That is not based on protein.
Right.
So we have American Cancer Association and all these big groups saying the biggest risk factor, aside from lung, for cancer is actually excess calories in lieu of excess insulin. But for some reason, the conversation is so biased that people are saying, well, protein causes cancer. Well, show me.
But what is that reason? So what is the reason that we're not focused on, like, the excess intake or like the carbohydrates, and what is it? Is it monetary? Is it because
That's
of?
exactly right.
Yeah.
It's like the mouse with the microphone.
Yeah.
So the conversations that we're hearing are biased. So big pharma spends, I don't know, $12 billion seriously to put us on statins.
Yeah.
The Kellogg's and the Pepsi, all of these groups spend billions of dollars on marketing and funding. And PETA, who's anti-protein, I think I looked up them, and I think they spend somewhere like $15 million. So it's the conversations that we're hearing are biased. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about the truth and you talk about sustainability and really what that looks like as it relates to protein, people are very agenda driven.
Yeah.
So they're misinforming everybody.
So then where do we get the truth? I mean, we can get it. I mean, you've been studying it. This is something that you know, so we can get it here right now. But the rest of the people are not getting it.
It's really hard. You have to question the data, and then you have to look to people that you trust.
Yeah, critical thinking isn't something I feel like a lot of people are doing.
It's so hard.
How do you even perform a study like that? How do you?
It's really hard.
Yeah, but I mean, how's that study even? How do they do that study? What do they lock people? What do they lock 20 people in a room for 2 years?
This is actually based on, and that's a really good question. So I did my fellowship at WashU, and they have metabolic wards,
right?
And you have very expensive, millions of dollars for a study. It's very hard to really do a study like that. It takes millions of dollars and a full staff and everything like that. I will tell you the anti-protein data all comes from overweight, obese, ad libitum fed rats. So the model that you're comparing and extrapolating the data is wrong. Just based on the model that they're using is incorrect.
We don't know that rat's history, do we? Honestly. No. We don't know if it's been like running in the subways on the street. We don't know. But that's
they have rats that they get.
Yeah, but we don't know. We don't know anything. But that was a joke. That was a bad joke, by the way.
No,
that's my whole point.
That was a good joke.
No, you actually
I did. I thought it was good.
We don't know the rat's history, guys.
Right.
We don't know. But that's my whole point. I don't understand how. This is something that's good for people. This is something that we should be educating them and putting them in the right direction. That someone wants. What is this China study? I can't even find it. What is it?
It's not really a study. It looked at 2 separate locations in China. One that was incredibly polluted. People smoked. They were eating processed meat. They didn't exercise. They weren't outside. Right. So it was like taking the middle of the worst place of New York City, comparing it to, I don't know, pick some beautiful place in Montana,
right,
where nobody lives. It's non-polluted. People are eating fresh foods, fresh protein. And then they decided that they cherry-picked the data and said, well, protein is the difference. It's protein is the cause.
Right.
I mean, it's just total BS. And no one in the scientific world even looks at it and has no credibility.
Okay, so I think we've been very clear so far that, well, and I agree with Dr. Gabrielle that we feel the research is inconclusive. We feel it's just false. It's
wrong.
It's just bullshit information. My question now is getting into protein sources.
Yeah.
So one thing that's been popping up a lot are chickens are the most polluted animals. We eat chicken and they eat their own feces and stand there. I'm like, come on, like seriously, like. Again, how are they raised? What farm are they in? It's like anything else. Like we have cows that eat grain and that are fed hormones and all this shit, and then you have cattle that's living in Ireland and are living on 4 acres per cow and are eating grass all day. And this is not comparing apples to apples here. So can you dive into that a little bit? I mean, talk to me about, first off, get into this whole chickens thing, because I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what the problem is. I mean, so. Again, what you said about knowing where they're sourced. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing.
Sourceability is huge. Right. It's everything, right? I mean,
it is. And also, when you look at the hormones and everything that people are saying, in order for something to come to market, it can't actually have detectable amounts of hormones or antibiotics or any of this stuff.
Right.
So when they label that, it's actually more propaganda to charge more. Now, it doesn't mean that it isn't different for the environment. There's regenerative agriculture and sustainability, which is a totally different topic. But if we are just looking at the nutrient value of the food, I mean, it seems really silly to say, it's like chicken or beef, when actually our beef consumption is down like 27% since 1975.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's not that we're eating more. We're not eating more of this stuff. We're actually eating less and getting fatter.
Right. it's also, I don't necessarily think it's always the meat. It's also what's being coupled in with the meat.
100%.
And what you're dipping it in and what you're pairing it with.
Exactly. Everyone's like,
drinking.
well, you're eating a burger. Well, you're also having it on white bread, and you're also putting mayo on the burger, which I find is disgusting. And you're having ketchup, which has high fructose corn syrup in it. And when it's all said and done, you have all this junk on that burger, and we're almost ignoring. Like I'm not going to go eat a McDonald's burger. I mean, it's not what I'm going to. Back in college, maybe, but is an individual going to develop the same amount of weight gain if they have the full burger or if they just eat the meat? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
those are all good points. Yeah,
these are all good points, and they all contribute to it. Sourcing now. So I'm always a believer that, because this always pops up that, it's expensive, I can't afford it. And I roll my eyes to that. I'm like, you know what? Buying organic one, I think just tastes better.
I agree, yeah.
Right. But I'm never able to say this. I worked for a supplement company in the past, and I would go and I'd say, well, if your whey that you're consuming, if your beef that you're consuming, if your chicken that you're consuming, your turkey, whatever it is fed hormones and antibiotics and chemicals, if you're consuming that stuff, is that going to cause inflammation in the body opposed to not having it? Like, that was a question. They were like, well, we can't really talk about that because we don't really know. I'm like, well, I would just assume if you're consuming chemicals and hormones, that's going to mess with digestion, correct?
Yeah.
That's going to mess with the way that we metabolize food. It also might cause some inflammation in the joints. So you might be eating this food that, you take an individual. My father's 73 years old and he has arthritis in the hands. Food. I take a food as medicine approach. You take a food as medicine approach.
Of course.
If we start eliminating that stuff, it's going to start eliminating a lot of those factors, a lot of those variables. And it's also, in my opinion, and I'm going to get shot for saying this right now, but I feel like for physique competitors, for body composition competitors, if you cut down on inflammation, if you are able to improve digestion and the way you metabolize food, maybe you'll look better also. I don't know. I might just be saying that.
Right.
So there's all these things, and I want to get your opinion on that as well.
So I think that there's a lot of hype around the whole cattle and chicken and a lot of negativity towards these things that don't necessarily hold up. When it comes to sourcing, I think that's very valuable when we think of a more global picture, meaning how do we continue to eat what we want to while it's still sustainable for the environment, I think is really important. And I think that, when we talk about regenerative agriculture and chickens that are allowed to not be in cages, that's much more beneficial. Mm-hmm. The quality of the meat, the quality of the immediate meat, they haven't really done studies. They do know, I think that's pretty nuanced. I mean, we do know that it's not necessarily detectable. You can't have hormone levels that are detectable. You cannot have antibiotics levels that are detectable. The question is it in
what do you
there?
Mean that you can't have that? Well, so what does that mean?
So if you have non-organic
right.
versus organic, no matter what comes to market, they can't have detectable hormones.
Oh, so if you tested
in the blood,
it?
Yeah, you cannot see it. I don't know what that means for the tissue that's in the blood. So I don't know, and I don't think that we know enough what that means for the tissue. I think that, Don, what you're saying is absolutely right.
But if we test the chicken or the beef, we can detect it in there, correct?
No, you cannot come to market if it's in there. It can't come to market.
Okay, so if we're right, it can't come to market.
So if you're in a pinch and you're looking at, well, my choices are inorganic, conventionally raised, or organic, or, I don't know, a bagel and cream cheese, I'd much rather have conventional, because that cannot come to market to have detectable amounts of anything in it.
But are they even testing it?
They do. They have to test it.
So they have to test
USDA,
So that's what the USDA does. They test to see if there's any hormones or antibiotics.
I mean, I'm sure if they're doing that, they'd get shut down.
Right.
Now,
if they weren't.
So Europe won't buy American meat, correct? Is that right? Or like poultry?
I won't. I would if. I mean, yeah.
Or like I didn't know if Europe would.
Europe.
Yeah, like
they said your.
No. Apologies.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I don't know. Like, why? Do you know why that is? I don't know why that is. I meant to look it up and I did not.
I don't know. The truth is, I hate chicken.
Terrific. You don't like chicken,
no.
right? What are your proteins? Well, just because of taste or because of other?
Yeah, well, I'm pregnant. I don't like anything.
Yeah.
Well, when you're not pregnant, how about that?
Beef or yak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are both really high quality. They have really good sources of iron and zinc and things that you can't get from plants, and the amino acids that we need
Do you feel like someone can eat too much beef in one day if it's from a
No.
good source? No.
No.
Right. So you should be able to eat beef 3-4 times a day. And
We've never seen, and that's a really good point, we've never seen too high protein. We don't even know the upper limit. I mean, you could have 3 grams per kilogram. We don't know. You're what, 200 and...
10 pounds.
You could probably eat double that.
You like that?
Looking good.
So that's, you remember the movie Super Size Me?
I do.
Okay, where
Morgan Spurlock?
Morgan Spurlock.
Yeah.
I almost said Jordan. I don't know why I was saying it because of Jordan. We were just talking about Jordan. Morgan went for 30 days. He ate McDonald's for 30 days.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is he gaining...
Sounds like me.
Yeah. Is he gaining the same amount of weight if he eliminates the bread,
No
the
way.
cheese,
No.
and the French fries?
No.
Okay, so
No,
if he
that's
turns
not.
around and just has beef, and I'm not saying that's a good
I would
thing
love
to do.
to see that.
I would love to see that test and that study. So was it actually the meat? And I'm not telling people to go eat McDonald's.
Right.
Or is it like you can go get? What if it was grass fed? What if it was grass fed beef
They'd
on
probably
those McDonald's patties? Are you still going to gain the same amount of weight? Maybe, right? I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of, who knows?
Yeah.
It's a lot of processed stuff that's actually really the issue when you talk about protein and cancer. You talk about cancer in general as a metabolic disease.
But that's my point. The people getting cancer, are they getting it from the beef or are they
No.
getting it from the white bread that
So-
they're having and the
so-
cheese and the processed crap that's on?
So
Yeah.
it's crazy, right? So when you look at all the studies, right, and you look at something called a relative risk or a risk ratio,
Yeah.
like not to nerd out or be too sciencey, but
No, please
but I
nerd
think
out.
it's really valuable for your listeners because my expectation of them is when they hear some of this stuff is they can go back and they can think, well, I'm gonna look at this study, I'm gonna look at the risk ratio because it just says risk ratio, right, on the papers. They can look at that, and that needs to be done well. So a risk ratio between smoking and cancer is 12. That means it's very relevant. So anything above 2 means this thing, the likelihood, the risk of you getting cancer is really, really, really
What's
high.
the highest number on that scale?
I have no
Do you
idea.
know?
It's a good question. I don't know. But it's anything that is above 2 is considered that's significant. So the risk ratio of smoking and cancer is 12. The risk ratio of protein in cancer, guess what that is?
Go ahead, Don.
All right. Want me to answer?
No.
I'll 0.5.
1.1.
Okay, that was close.
But that's
Wrong. No.
So what that
It's a
means,
0.5.
in essence, is completely irrelevant.
Right.
It's
Right.
not even.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
Right.
That's like saying, what's the risk ratio of living in Maryland and getting a divorce?
Okay. I actually
5.
like that.
I don't know.
All right, hold on. So I'm not segueing to anything else,
Yeah.
but this is a good point now. So anytime someone tries something new, in my opinion, with dieting, it's like the greatest things in sliced bread. Another bad joke. Sorry. All right, but my bad jokes.
Yeah.
I'm rolling them out today.
You're taking my
But
spot
like
with that.
this year I try to fat, and I do it probably every year. I try to fat adapted
Yes, you
diet.
did.
Not saying I was on keto, I wasn't, but I did a fat adapted diet. Got through about 2 to 3. First week felt great.
Yeah.
Second week felt good. Third week, like it's not working for me. But I'm glad I did it because my body starts learning to metabolize higher fats and lower carbs, and the protein's down a little bit. And I think it's important for me. People who jump on keto immediately, they feel great. People who eat go vegan, the first few months, how do you feel? Best I've ever felt in my life. Like, this is what I hear, like the best I've ever felt. 6 months in, how you feeling now? You know what? Like, my nails are getting a little thin. My skin's getting ashy.
My hair is falling out.
Yeah, I mean,
my
that's
teeth are
just things
bleeding.
are just not feeling. My lips are chapped. Things aren't like my energy levels dipping a little bit. They're not getting the
I don't
same
know if you're trying to
response.
sell me on it.
No,
I think I'm in.
but what I'm trying to say is that anything new, like when you jump on it, it's shiny and new in the beginning. Your body's not used to it, and you're doing some type of discipline or regimen. It's gonna work for a period of time
Until it doesn't.
Yeah. My thing is long-term sustainable, and I have no problem with experimenting. I have no problem if someone's like, I want to get into ketosis for 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is. I'm like, give it a shot, see how you feel, and be the judge of that. But what's a long, sustainable plan? What should people be thinking about? They jump on things and they're the same individuals who can't get long-term health. They can't find that long-term, I'm like, you're always fighting. You're always fighting to get there, and you never get there because you're trying all this crap. It comes down to, in your opinion, old-fashioned protein, managing your carbohydrates. That's all different for different
100%.
people. We can talk about that, and getting your vegetables. Can you jump into that?
I have a quick question though. So I don't eat animal protein.
Really?
I don't. And I know in previous interviews you've said whey is the one of the other sources you recommend.
It is.
And pea and rice would be the second. And then soy.
Yeah.
Correct? So should then I start consuming more whey? Would you recommend that?
So the reason I recommend whey is because of the branched chain amino acids, which is really what makes up the highest quality of the protein. And especially for muscle tissue, you need that. And it's very deficient in every vegan or vegetarian diet. That's what really separates the two. So yeah, so whey would be great because it has enough of that leucine, which is the amino acid, to help stimulate muscle protein turnover. And it's good for immune cells because of the glutamine in the gut. So yes, whey would be a great choice.
So what is it? Plant has BCAAs. They're just lower in BCAAs.
Much lower.
Much
lower.
What about the leucine, the isoleucine, and valine, which makes up those are your three branched chain amino acids. Then you have your free form amino acids, which are probably, I would assume, a lot higher in the plant protein. But specific types of plants. So I've read some research stating that pea protein might be a little higher.
A ton of estrogen.
Oh, wow.
So, you talk about meat being high in hormones.
That makes sense. Soybeans have higher estrogen.
You got it.
Okay. Wow.
So what's interesting is that so if you look at some of the data and you look at, say, hey, everyone says, oh, well, there's all these hormones in meats. It's infinitesimal. So small. And then you look at soy and pea, and their estrogen is so much higher. So if someone can get away with not eating, pea protein, that would be better. I mean, whey protein can be inflammatory for some people, but you got to be really careful about then the pea and the soy. I mean, no one wants man boobs, boobs.
Not in summertime anyway.
Yeah. So, but the other thing that you can do is you can always add so for example, it takes 4 to 6 cups of quinoa to equal the same amino acid profile in one chicken breast.
That's insane.
I
You know
know.
how much quinoa that is?
That's a lot.
Gross.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's probably a pile of quinoa about this big.
disgusting.
I mean, it's
That
insane.
is a lot.
So you need about 45% more. So like wheat and all these other proteins, hemp protein, it's much lower in amino acids.
Yeah.
So your caloric load and carbohydrate load is much higher.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a challenge for body composition.
What about supplementing BCAAs?
Yep.
I mean, granted, you cannot get them in an organic, non-GMO form yet. I don't think that's impossible because you've got to convert it somehow. Or I don't know. Maybe you would know. But what if for vegans who are like, listen, for religious purposes,
Yes.
I cannot do this.
Yes.
I was raised in a household. I'm against it. I'm against killing animals. I'm kind of backing off there. That's when I'm like, all right, I understand. Like you were misled your whole life. And it's all. But like. Turning around and starting to supplement a high quality branched chain amino acid do you think that's going to make up for it?
It does make up for it.
Okay.
I mean, then of course you've got to make sure you get the B vitamins and the zinc and the absorbable calcium, all that other stuff. But for you to offset that, to have branched chains would be the way to go.
Right.
Just a scoop. It doesn't have to be anything fancy.
So how would somebody like me, or somebody in the same position as me, figure this out? To figure out how to be optimal in the sense of their diet, like, so because I do take whey, I consume it, and I eat a pretty clean diet, and I probably don't eat as much as I should because I just get sidetracked at work a lot, but I don't get blood work done. I don't know how I would figure that out, and I want to. So, and I think other people, I do get that question a lot. So how would people like me figure that out? Do I need to go to a doctor and get tests done?
So I recommend, obviously, the more data you have, the more information, the more empowered you are. So you would definitely want to get blood work. Let's see what your insulin level's like. What is your glucose like? How are you maintaining? What is your blood work like on the diet you're on right now? I bug Don incessantly about getting blood work. Mm-hmm. Like, really, I'm annoying. Like, come on, dude, get in there.
And what's funny about it too is I actually go for blood work yearly, but it's different blood work. It's she's doing different tests, and it's giving me different information that I think helps me. Where I get a little held up is that there's specific people out there that can't, they're not willing to fix the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I'll go for blood work. How much is blood work? And, it's pricey, right? I mean.
No, actually, I run everything through insurance now.
Oh, wow.
Blood work.
What's pricey? Well, what did you
at the
think
time, I mean, at the time it was expensive,
yeah.
right? I mean,
but
But what's expensive?
Couple $1,000.
Okay, that is expensive. Yeah.
Out of pocket, but now the model of my practice has changed where I personally don't take insurance, but all blood work is done through insurance.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So now, I mean,
and I'm doing genetic markers, and I have a home phlebotomist.
Oh, wow.
Who comes and does a whole genetic markers, everything.
That's interesting.
Whole nutrient profile, yeah.
So what happens now is it will give the individual, if they're willing to execute. You also have to ask yourself, in my opinion, if you're one of these people that are going to go get the test done, you're not going to do anything with it.
What's the point?
What's the point? Yeah. And for someone like me, I'm going to execute it, but I've had some clients in the past that are sleeping 3 hours a night and they're drinking 6 nights a week, and
right.
I'm like, they're like, well, I'm going to go in and they're just going to tell me to stop drinking and start sleeping, and I'm not willing to start doing that. So
right.
I'm like, what do you think? I'm like, then honestly, man, like sometimes I tell them to go do it because I think it's just going to shake them up if they actually see the result in front of them.
Yeah.
If you're looking at them saying, well, no, you're in some trouble if you don't if you don't make some changes. But again, to each his own. I mean, people got to ask themselves, what's important to you?
Right.
You know, like you could sit here and you can bash animal protein. You could say it causes cancer. My grandma and her 4 sisters lived all the ages of 95 to 105, and none of them died of cancer, you know, and they all died of old age. And they drank a scotch every night, which I don't recommend people to do. And they ate, you know, foods in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 50s, or, you know, that were probably some was organic, some was non-organic. I mean, who knows? You know, I don't know, man. If you want to nitpick, that's fine. But I'm sticking with what I'm doing. So.
Yeah, but you definitely should look at how you're able to withstand the kind of carbohydrate intake that you're taking, because if you're not eating protein, like Don said earlier, you're going to be adding in one of the other two things, which is either fat or carbohydrates. So I would love to see how is your ability to manage the glucose that you're taking in, and what does your lipid profile look like, and then you can get a sense. And also, of course, body composition is huge. Guys should be lean, testosterone should be high, you should be waking up feeling good and vibrant. And if you're not, then if you think about where you're at now, and then you think about where you're going to be in 10 years, with what you're doing now and how you feel now, what is the trajectory of your aging?
Oh, terrible.
You've got to address it.
Now I think I'm depressed.
He's 15 years old. I mean, look at him. He looks like he's 40. So.
Yeah, I am actually 15, so I'm doing horrible already. I can only go downhill.
See, you got to look at these things because the trajectory is preventable.
Yeah, no, I think it's well right now, and I've mentioned it to Don numerous times. I don't really get a lot of sleep right now. Like yesterday,
you just have a new baby.
Yeah, the first time that she slept until 5 a.m. Yesterday in 6 months. So that was pretty cool. But, you know, before that, we're waking up numerous times a night, and it's just, that's been something we're contending with. So that aside, and as I said, I'm trying to eat more when I'm at work. That's a whole new battle, or a whole new beast I'm contending with. But yeah, just overall, like, I'm trying to make changes that are more for just, like Don was saying, more for longevity, more for just a different type of health that I cared about in the past, which was more physical strength, and that's a part of it, but it's really now about a whole different trajectory, which is more mental, more spiritual, more just something deeper.
So why do you not eat animal protein?
It's actually something I really don't talk about but I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, but like no one ever asks, and I don't bring it up voluntarily because I just don't think it's all that interesting.
Okay.
I grew to really care about animals, and I had a problem with it. I know that you've in the past have had this discussion with other people about you should take emotion out of eating. I can't do that, and I have no interest in doing that. And like just 2 days ago, we rescued a stray cat and brought it to the vet, and it needed surgery. And so now it has a 50-50 chance of living. It's at our place right now, and we're giving it medications numerous times a day and giving it fluid. Like, I would rather be on that side of the fence.
I get it. And that's why I said when someone brings that up as a reason, I back off.
And that's just who I am.
Because I think that's completely fair, and I totally understand.
As opposed to saying it's going to prevent me from having cancer or any of these other things.
So I sorry,
but my wife eats meat, and I'm not like
right. And you
the nerve, like
that would be really awkward
to eat. I used to eat meat all the way up until I think it was 5 or so years ago. It just got to the point where I started to feel uncomfortable with myself doing that, so I stopped, and I quietly stopped, and that was it. I never looked back, and I never crave it. And that was it, and I just moved forward.
Vegans. So what are some of so say this, and I got to keep bringing it up.
Vegans. Like that was like that.
Vegans. Someone comes to you, it's a female, she says, I'm not looking to put on any muscle mass. You know, do I really need the optimal amount of amino acids?
So why is she coming to me though?
Well, I'm just fictitiously making this up. Why is it important for that individual to get a higher amino acid profile? Or is it not?
No, it is. I mean, you want to. So when you're young, you can get away with not really eating a ton of animal protein. I mean, I was vegetarian for a lot of years when I was younger. And that's okay because you're driven by hormones. So you maintain muscle tissue by having a high amount of growth hormone and all these other things. But as you age, if she were to say, well, you know, I'm just going to stay vegan, I've seen the trajectory of that. So like 5-10 years down the line, a lot of them have issues with periods and fertility and dentition. So teeth and gums receding, and protein, a bone is made from protein. When you have low quality protein, you have really low quality bone, brittle teeth. And that, the challenge of fixing that, the longer it goes is a problem. And that's really the big thing you're talking about. How do you maintain this capacity to age well and you don't?
It comes down to recovery. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all recovery, isn't it? It's like, how are we recovering? How are we producing healthy cells in the body, and how's our bone, our skin, our hair. This is all protein feeds that in a way, right?
It is, and you don't want a catastrophic event.
Right.
So I have a lot of patients that turn over a new leaf when they say break a hip, break a bone.
Right.
Their teeth are, they're
bones
needing.
Get frail, right? I mean,
but even young. So we're talking even in your 30s, the stress fractures.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's this whole vegan movement. Those are, by the time they get to my office, they're the sickest. They are literally the sickest group of patients that I take care of.
Right. How long does it take to kind of, I don't want to say permanently restore, but when do you really see things kicking in for them? Is it a week?
No, it takes a couple
months.
And then I've had vegan patients come in and, we look at their blood work and they're totally anemic and they're deficient and they're not unhealthy vegans and they're trying, parasites because of all the stuff that they're eating. Stuff isn't, they don't have enough to maintain their good gut integrity. And we transition them over, and I'm telling you, their hair is like falling out in clumps. Transition them in a 6-month period, and it's like just totally a new world for them. And that's what you want. Ultimately, anyone who gets into medicine, when they get into it for the right reasons, just like you, Don, you love helping people, is you want people to live the best version of themselves. The best life possible.
But it's also tough when, and I know Don does this too, when you have to kind of take that hard line of, either you're going to do the work or you're not, or you're going to listen to what's not bullshit.
Yeah.
You're going to have to throw out the things that you think because you're going to tell it how it is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Don does. You're either going to not drink 6 days a week, or you're going to take this program I'm giving you and do it, or you're not.
There's things we can do to cut down our risk. And I believe this isn't one of them. It's like, fine, change the deodorant you're using, use a water filter, the shampoo you're using, just things that I believe when you're using all these chemicals and you're exposed to them day in and day out, the air we breathe, the stress levels that we're in, being exposed to all that blue light every day and destroying our sleep. Like, there's all these other things. I'm like, wait, this is, to me, it's low-hanging fruit. Like, let's fix that first and then turn around and start getting its source. Listen, if you're someone who's just like, I'm disgusted by animal protein, I can't do it because of the great reason that you gave, by the way, stick with it, keep doing what you're doing. I just, I want you to be healthy. So I guess the answer is start supplementing with some amino acids, right?
I got a question for both of you guys. Do you get to the point, though, with your patients or your clients where they start to use you as a crutch? It becomes to where they're leaning on you for everything, and not just like the things that, you specialize in.
I think that and I've thought about this a lot, when I see patients, it's really important for me to make them capable and not enable them.
Is that something you had to learn?
Yeah.
How long did that take you?
A couple years, because ultimately I want my people to be the most elite version of themselves, to be the best of themselves. And so a lot of doctors will go easy on their patients and say, hey, it's okay, you can just do this, or no, we can work on that next time. That is not how I roll. At this point in this level of my care let me find your weak point. I'm going to exploit where you're weak, and we're going to work better to make you strong, and you're going to become capable and not enabled. And that goes for all the patients that I see. It's just not a good fit in my practice if that's how that works.
How about when you have to deal with Navy SEALs, like, and I know your husband's one, so I'm going to exclude him from this, but like...
No, they're all the same. All those frogmen are the same.
Do they have trouble, or maybe they're used to this, taking orders from you, or like do they think that they know more?
No.
Or, no?
No way. They are great. They're coming in here, self-selected group, coming in, and they want to be the best version. Hey, doc, what do I got to do? Okay. There's actually no questions. They are probably, the biggest thing is the culture is heavy into drinking and no sleeping. So the culture itself is different. And sometimes they travel so much so they're not able to be gluten or dairy free, and they are having exposed to a lot of allergens and parasites and things like that. But no, they're coming in. Hey, doc, what do I got to do?
I couldn't agree with you anymore. I've been working with a handful of them recently.
Who actually Shane knows? Can you believe?
Yeah.
Shane knew one of the guys.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 of them in probably the last 2 or 3 months. SEALs.
Pretty small community.
Yeah, and I was shocked. One, they all know each other, which is kind of cool, or they know someone who knows the other one. But their level of humility, their level, I think, the idea that they can take as much direction, just in a very humble way, like they're literally coming in, and you're looking at in my eyes, this person's an athlete,
totally,
and they're wired so differently than any other human being you're going to meet. I was having a conversation with one of them who I think went out underwater, and they had to bring him back. I'm like, well, did you know? He goes, no, I didn't know.
Is a shallow breath hold in past? Did you black out?
Yeah, blacked out. He's like, I was just underwater and I forgot I was underwater, and I'm like, that's interesting, because I don't forget I'm underwater when I'm underwater. Like, I don't like, I'm underwater, like, oh God, I'm 5 minutes down and I'm going to die right now. But he was talking about this relaxed, this is what they do.
Yeah.
I don't think this is something you could teach. I think you have to be built a certain way in here and in here. But every one of them, when I sat down, I'm like, listen, I'm not exactly telling you how to do things. I'm giving you my 2 cents on what I'm seeing today. I'm trying to make you a better athlete to be able to perform what you're doing optimally. Yeah. And that's the way I present it. Not like, oh, you've been doing everything wrong. These guys will wake up on a Saturday and just decide. One of them told me that on a Friday night, a buddy of his asked him to run an ultra that weekend, and he just picked up and ran an ultra, not mentioning names. But the guy turned around 2 days later and ran an ultra marathon. I'm like, you didn't train for it? He's like, no. I just ran ultra. How'd you feel after that? Yeah, I felt okay. Like this isn't normal. No. This is not something that, like, people say I train superheroes. They're the superheroes. Like, this is not like,
they're not.
When I work with Ryan Reynolds and these guys, they would be like, no way. Am I even like? Are you nuts? Like,
100%.
It's a different person. But you got to be wired that way. And I was impressed on how receptive they were to. Criticism is a tough word, but change.
Yeah, and it's not personal. Their feelings don't get hurt.
Yeah.
You literally can. At least that's been my experience with them, and I see at least one combat operator a week. Yeah, which is a lot.
You've worked a lot with SWAT, also. You've worked a lot with different special forces. Yep. It's pretty impressive what you're doing.
Some of the assaulters from Canada. Yeah.
So when you're helping somebody go from good to exceptional, like, what are some of those things what are some of the hurdles that you're helping them get over?
It depends on what they have. Everyone wants good testosterone. So you really have to. I will tell you this. One of the things is, we think that if a little is good, then more is way better, and that's not necessarily true. So guys that need testosterone therapy treatment, and they think that way more is better, can actually be very detrimental to the receptors and the capacity to perform. It actually overshoots them. So I would say really getting in perspective of how hard you're willing to charge. And saying, okay, so what does this look like for the long term? So if we keep you in a therapeutic range as opposed to a super physiologic range, then that's really the key. So I'd say really kind of reevaluating where you're at and where you want to go would be probably the biggest thing.
So I guess you got to have that answer. What do you want? Like, where do you want to go, and like, where do you want to be, right? So if they don't know exactly what it is that they're looking for when they come to you.
No, they all know. They all know. I want to perform better. I want to be stronger. Depends if like, for example, if you're taking care of an operator, right? they want to do this. I mean, this is pretty much the career that they know, and they want to feel strong and be strong and feel good. And, they're willing to go no matter if their labs are terrible. You're like, bro, your testosterone is 300. How are you functioning? No, I'm good. So it's taking them, they just need to know where they want to feel. How do they want to feel? That's it. They don't need to know where they want to go. How do you want to feel? You want to feel recovered? Want to feel strong? Then that's what we got to focus on.
The average, I mean, this is a very generic question, but from the amount of people you've worked with, you can answer, because it's like asking me, the average trainee, what do they need? Someone sitting at a desk 8 to 10 hours a day, I'm like, all right, thoracic extension, rotation, you start going in. What is the typical John Smith walks into you? What are you telling them 9 out of 10 times? What do they need to improve upon? Yeah. What are the specific areas that they really need to focus on? What's the lowest hanging fruit? Like the takeaway from today, from someone watching this episode, what are the changes you want them to make?
You have to nail your nutrition.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the foundation. So let's say, you're sleeping well, you're training hard, but you're eating terrible. You are never going to out-train a bad diet. Mm-hmm. You're never going to be able to affect your inflammatory markers or whatever the issue is, dementia, diabetes, and stuff. Your nutrition has to be on point. Mm-hmm. Start with optimal protein, earn your carbs. Don and I talk a lot about carbs with each other, because he tends to, when he's training, he's much higher. But look at him. I mean, this is a guy who's trained for 20 years, who has no problem with insulin sensitivity, is capable to do that.
I actually find it's ironic. The more carbs I consume, as long as they're good burning carbs, the leaner and tighter my body gets.
But that's unusual.
Yeah, but that's also something like, don't we want to kind of train towards that a little bit?
You do.
Yeah, so that's when people are restricting calories all the time and they're removing food to lose weight. I almost feel like it's like starving a horse before you're trying to run it. It's like if you starve the horse and you beat up the horse, the horse isn't going to be in good shape to run. And if everyone's trying to develop that, when I say superhero physique, I mean internally first. I'm always a believer, like, we got to clean everything up inside, and then externally things happen. Yeah. Bodybuilders are some of the most unhealthy people I've met.
Yeah.
They're just consuming, it's very black and white on what they're consuming. They're losing a lot of those nutrients that their body needs to be optimal, to make sure that their hormones are functioning optimally. Food is medicine.
Food is medicine, and get rid of the bad habits. If you're smoking pot at night, if you are drinking, if you are starving yourself and then binging, I mean, fix these basic things. And also, you should get basic blood work. You should know.
So trade pot for meth. That's
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
We could do a whole episode on discussing marijuana and gummies and
I think
all this
great.
stuff. I mean, that would be interesting also. I mean, I don't know how much research is out there yet on it. I still feel like that there's a lot of, unanswered questions on this. They still don't really know what CBD is doing, even though there's no THC in it. I'm just saying CBD. Right. Do we really know what the long-term effects are? I mean, it seems like everything's pointing in the right direction. Granted, it's from a good source. Again, we're discussing source, not the stuff you buy in 7-Eleven. But I still don't know. I don't know. If
just know it's everywhere. It's like at every corner.
I'm not even sure it's legal in New York. I mean,
CBD is. It's legal in New York. I know, but anything with THC isn't. But I know CBD is legal in New York, so.
And obviously get good sleep. Everyone talks about sleep, but the electronics, I think that, and I know this is really going to sound crazy, but all the EMF and all of the stuff we are exposed to, 5G and all of this stuff, which, if you actually look at,
it's going to mess us up.
It really is not good.
Oh yeah. And on top of that all, what about the posture that you're in? When I'm riding the train in the morning and I'm doing emails and I'm down here, I stand up, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like my head being in that position, I never have back pain. My back starts aching, my hips start aching. I'm starting to walk like an old man, then it starts opening up and I'm like, whoa. I got to put it down a little bit. I got to get myself into anatomically a better position. So, you turn around, you take someone who's sitting 8 to 10 hours a day, like on typical Wall Street, and then you add that phone in on the commute, man, where it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, so there's definitely foundational things individuals can do.
Glad we're ending on this high note.
I love it.
Everybody's talking about all the horribleness and
well, we're already an hour in. I mean, we just covered.
I'm just kidding. Look,
think about this. We're an hour in, and we just covered animal protein and cancer. Think about all the things that we're going to talk.
I actually did have one quick question before we get too off. If you don't mind, as you when you knew you were pregnant, any changes you made specifically, because we have a 6-month-old, and I know my wife.
So exciting.
It's great, and but I just didn't know, and we talk about getting pregnant again, and you can always refine things, but asking a doctor what she did and if there's any changes she specifically made, I think would be good. And was there anything you did that was that could be helpful?
So as Don will tell you, I am very strict on my nutrition, super high protein, very low carbohydrate, very regimented. When I got pregnant, I got sick. I literally could not. I mean, it's still so hard for me to eat protein. So all my nutritional habits. Shane was joking because I send out a weekly newsletter every Sunday.
And Shane's your husband.
Yeah. And and so he was joking. He said, "Babe, you got to look at this." And it showed the 2 pounds of meat and blood pudding and liver and all the stuff that I would normally eat to it, like dried bananas.
Yeah. Pretzels on the Upper West Side.
You're the first person I sent that to.
You said that anyone else on the planet would have been like, "What the hell is this?" I just started hysterically laughing. She didn't even have to put a caption next to it. I'm like, I get it.
It's so bad.
I said, enjoy it.
So it's really been interesting. So I have really bad. So I've had nausea and vomiting for over 7 months. Pretty consistently every day. So that's actually been a huge change for me. And my capacity, I still train.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm still training, even if it's 3 days a week, so it's 3 days a week with weights.
Your training's good.
Yeah, 3 days a week. Yeah. And then another 3 days a week with weights, and then I try to do another day in between. But that is 75% less than I was doing before.
And even though it obviously varies by person, is it supposed to be that your first trimester you might feel sick, your second one you're supposed to get a little bit of a reprieve, and then the third one might feel sick again? That's typically the way it's supposed to be? Typically,
you're sick the first trimester, second is like the honeymoon phase, and the third you're tired.
But you just got it the whole time.
Well, it's a Navy SEAL baby. I mean, half team guy baby. But I been sick the whole time. And Shane's still active duty, so it's been me. But so I would say that the things that changed were definitely my training and also my nutritional choices. I never ate fruit ever or drank anything with any kind of calories, and now that's what I have to do to just be able to survive the day without getting sick.
Get enough energy in. You got to drink some of your calories.
And that's actually, and it's interesting because I asked Don these things. I'm, like, what do you do about body composition? And it was so interesting him having 2 kids, having the perspective that when you're pregnant, it's not even about body composition.
Oh God, yeah, no, I would never. I mean, when a woman asks me that, I'm like, you're first off, we can never go through what they're going through. I think you and I both will agree on that. But
yeah, Shane's like, honey, I stubbed my toe. I don't feel good. I have a cold. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, just
just kidding.
Get the calories you need to get. You're going to be fine. Funny story about my wife. She was when we were having Donnie, which was literally 14 months after Amelia. They were really close. My wife used to take like a week to go get her nails done, and she'd go get some food, and she'd get a magazine, and it was like her time. And I'm coming home from work early one day, and the elevator door opens. We used to live on the 6th floor, and it opens, and as it opens, she's sitting there with a Junior Whopper, and she's just like, and she stops and she looks at me. She's like, teeth are in this Junior Whopper, and we just start hysterically laughing. And then people come to me, they're like, "Oh, what do you feed your kids, and what does your wife eat?" And I'm like, listen, like, it's going to be okay, man. Like, I'm not sitting there like, I don't want my kids to develop an eating disorder. Like, when we make hamburgers, we're using grass-fed beef, and we make them French fries, and we're baking them, and we're trying to teach them good options. And do I make them work out? No. I go out in the jungle gym, I work out myself, and my kids 9 out of 10 times want to come with me. And you lead by example. And you know what? If you're going to turn around and she's going to have some ice cream every day, or she's going to eat pieces of pizza every day, she's going to be okay. Yeah. Like, it's going to be all right. Like, it's, and a lot of times her and I talked about it, you have this intention of wanting to feed yourself. You got to get down what you can get down. Yeah. If you're not craving it, and you feel sick.
I literally have not craved eating for me is a real chore.
So I'm not, it's going to be all right. You're going to have a very healthy baby.
It's good. It's fine.
And you're going to teach the baby great habits. The baby's going to be incredibly healthy, and you guys are going to do awesome.
But that's been the change. And if another recommendation that I would recommend right now is if your wife wanted to get pregnant or someone wanted to get pregnant, is to start prenatals early.
Okay. Yeah.
So start prenatals. You should have a clean diet. Make sure your vitamin D is good. Your fat soluble vitamins are good.
I'll take them too. Yeah.
Actually, why not?
Yeah, I'm in.
That's kind of how you do it.
Shave by next Tuesday.
I will. Yeah. I'm gonna look good. I'm gonna look different. I'm gonna feel different. This time will be different.
Well, first off, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was.
Thank you.
Will you come back again sometime?
You bet, of course.
We'll choose another topic. And
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing about her. There's plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
No, that was really, I learned a ton. I still won't eat meat, but I'm not going to get cancer from it if I did.
No, you're
Yes,
not.
you won't. But now you know you're going to supplement some BCAAs.
Yeah, now there's strategies for you,
Yeah.
and you should really see what your basic blood work is.
Yeah, and it's something I've been meaning to do, and I've just been lazy about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I did at one point. I was supplementing BCAAs, and then I don't know. I go through these ebbs and flows about supplementing, about supplements, really, about workout supplements, about training supplements, and I stopped. But the whey protein is something that I've always just taken, specifically since I don't eat a lot of meat.
What about eggs? Do you eat eggs?
Yeah, I eat a lot of
Great.
eggs. I eat a ton of eggs.
Great.
And,
Fish?
No fish.
No fish.
No, I'm not a pescatarian.
Sean was a pescatarian. He used to just eat fish. Right?
Yeah, I just don't like the taste.
Yeah.
Me either.
I get it.
I just can't do it.
I love it either.
Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, episode 21.
Episode 21. Oh, that's a very good number, by the way.
Yes.
21 's good.
I've got to thank her. This was awesome, really. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
It
for
was
having
awesome.
me.
And if someone wants to get in contact with you, can you give us your social media handles?
Yes.
Can you
Yes,
give
what I
us-
was-
yes. So I'm very active on Instagram, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and on my website drgabriellelyon.com, and I have a weekly newsletter, and I pick really good research articles or things that I've seen in the clinic, and I try to make it very evidence-based and relevant for people.
I'm not getting that newsletter. I
What?
just realized. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know why
It's
I'm
good.
not.
It's quick, so it's not this
It's-
exhaustive list.
Well, I
It's,
just got to go to your site and subscribe.
Don,
to it?
Don is on GabrielleLyon.net. That's why. You've got to go to
That's
.com.
what it was.
like this last month I talked about women that couldn't get their period and HCG for testosterone.
I mean, and that's pretty common in the fitness industry, isn't it? Like a lot
Yeah.
of women who are training just so hard that they're...
That's absolutely what this article is about. So it's good evidence-based. You asked in the beginning of the podcast, how do we know who to go to and what to find? That is good information. So I really carefully select the stuff that I put in the newsletter, and it's an easy read so people can go to the link and actually read for themselves.
Cool.
And I've trained with her a lot,
Yes.
and she can bring it.
All right.
And I
So,
can't wait to get back.
I can't wait.
I cannot wait to train.
What's the what is like the first thing you're going to do when you train that you can't do right now?
Gosh, probably intervals. I loved intervals.
She
But you
loved it.
can't really do any of that. You tried being real pregnant with, and that it's just does not work.
Well, you look amazing. Thank you again.
Thank you for
We had a
having
blast. This
Cool.
is great. One of my favorite episodes.
At Don Saladino.
Well, at
On Instagram.
Zraz
Yes,
Instagram.
sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see that? And if they have any questions, they can email us at reps at muscleandfitness.com.
It took us only, 8 weeks to
21.
figure that out?
No, it
yeah.
took us 21 episodes.
Yeah, basically. And
We screwed it up last week.
yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. This was
Thanks, guys.
this was a good one, and we'll keep bringing it.